Has this ever happened to you? You're playing a fighting game and you think you're getting pretty damn good at it. Maybe you're grinding versus your friend and getting better versus them. Maybe you go even with someone who you used to have trouble with. Maybe you're taking games off good players in your region. Maybe you're just able to sense your progress in the game. Your neutral's gotten better. You're thinking more about the decisions you're making. You've ironed out your bad habits. Either way, you're a better player than you used to be. And it feels great. Then, you decide to jump online onto ranked, or you play someone new in bracket. For one reason or another, this player is noticeably worse at the game, yet you're struggling to beat this person despite you being fundamentally better at the game. They're doing weird, unorthodox options which frustrate you. Maybe they even get the upper hand and win a game or even the set. What's going on here? This shouldn't happen, right? You're better. You should have won, right? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe there's something you're overlooking. What if I told you that the reason you lost is because it's a two-player game? You're probably thinking, what am I on about? But it's true, and it's something a large majority of players don't really think about. Players, myself included here, focus so much on our own progression. This is assuming the player in question actually does want to improve at the game. Improving execution for combos or set play. Just take single player training mode grinding. Even games with combo breaking mechanics such as burst or combo breakers or DI, combo routes exist that OS or otherwise are safe against these options. Ironing out one's own bad habits is also something people tend to focus on, as it's relatively much easier to notice and to fix. For example, I used to have a really bad jumping habit with Millia. So, I've had to force myself to play a bit more grounded, rather than immediately try to escape to the air. Analysing situations and what leads to them takes more effort, and when it comes to humans, we want to take the easy way out. Essentially, what I'm saying is what people don't do is consider the habits of their opponents. So, while their general skill level will increase, it will only really be seen versus players of similar skill level to those who they train against. While that's all well and good if they only play certain people, the cracks in this method do show themselves when playing against a new opponent. Maybe it's a different character, a playstyle, or even just the opponent picking unorthodox moves and options. And what's important if a player's goal is to improve and to become a better, well-rounded player, it's not just their own ability and ironing out bad habits, but also to be able to recognize stuff against the opponent and learning to take advantage of the flaws in an opponent's gameplay. For the sake of this video, I will not be talking too much about emotions or tilt and how different playstyles may affect a different player's mental state and how this may affect a player or how they may take advantage of it themselves. I may cover the topic of emotions in another video one day. Switching gears, let's talk about replay analysis for a second. How many times have you gone through your replay footage and focused solely on the mistakes you've made? Or if you're like me, just watching the replays until you see yourself do something kinda cool. Laser focusing on your own play and watching yourself carefully and just saying something like, man, why did I get hit by this move here? No thought usually gets put into the actual why, and instead people shrug it off as just, it shouldn't have happened. But again, no thought comes into why that's the case. People are critical about what happened but never look at the big picture. Again, it comes back to people wanting to fix stuff wrong with their play, fixing the habit rather than tackling the underlying issue. Maybe the issue wasn't approaching in a situation but instead a difference in approach was necessary. Being able to notice issues in play in replays is easier than in the heat of battle, so start here to get the hang of spotting those exploitable habits or mistakes in the play and think what could be done to avoid this. So many people think the best way to improve at a game is to play people that are better than them. There is merit to this. Better players will make bad habits and mistakes more pronounced. They'll punish those habits and force them to be ironed out. While this is true, you're probably getting the idea by now. You need to improve fighting against opponents. The solution to this is both simple but also kind of odd. I believe players should practice against a variety of different characters, players and playstyles. In short, play a bunch of people. Go on ranked or online in general and grind that shit out. Don't worry about wins or losses, just focus on the different styles of play you're put up against. Sounds easy, right? Wrong. Specifically, I think people should spend time playing against players who are weaker than them. Weaker players have more noticeable obvious holes in their play, so it's easier to specifically target and punish these bad habits. Ever notice when you're playing against someone of even or high skill level than you, all your focus is on playing optimally and basically trying to win or hell, just try to survive? It's draining to play, but you feel yourself improving. It's satisfying, and that's why people do it. Meanwhile, versus lower level players, this doesn't really happen as much. When you're trying, you should generally kick their asses. As a result, playing quote-unquote normally doesn't usually feel as rewarding since you steamroll them. So most players will write off playing against worse players as a waste of time. This is what happens when your goal is to win. But when playing against lower level players, the focus isn't on beating them or to win. Instead, put that focus on identifying the habits or playstyle quirks and play specifically to take advantage of them. Don't play to win, play to improve. Maybe play the set with a specific goal in mind, such as anti-airing better or catching mashing with frame traps. Play to notice and punish bad habits. It will be slow progress, and it's far less noticeable and rewarding, but it's important to do. You may even lose some games to someone you absolutely otherwise wouldn't, but these losses don't matter. Losses in general don't matter, but that's also another topic for another day. What matters here is your improvement, and the ability to recognize an opponent's bad habits and being able to capitalize on them is invaluable. Refining this ability to kick in quicker is what will separate a good player from a great player. Future Mish here, chiming in with something I thought was worth mentioning, but I wasn't sure how to organically work it into the script without rewriting a bunch of stuff, so I'm just going to throw it in here. When doing ranked matches, you'll typically get matched up versus someone with similar skill level to you, so finding opponents to actually grind in the method I'm describing is easier said than done. You can try via Discord or player matches maybe, or just casual games at your local. Also, saying to play against worse players is not really grammatically correct, but rather I meant play versus people with bad habits that you can punish. Of course, this doesn't mean don't neglect playing people who are well-rounded, as that's also a skill you need, finding opponents who you can't quote-unquote cheese wins against. Anyway, back to the regular video. I will say right now, there is no solution to this issue, or at least no easy one. What this takes is a shift in your mindset, a shift in your game plan, or rather, more specifically, a more flexible game plan that takes into consideration what options the opponent may pick. Maybe incorporate more passive play to whiff punish quote-unquote randy options from the opponent. Maybe consider using more frame shots to catch mash attempts. Maybe approach on the ground more versus characters with strong anti-air game. This may sound really obvious when spelled out like this, but the truth is that there is no one-size-fits-all solution to this, as it's dependent on the player, the opponent, the characters, as well as what specifically the player is struggling with. I believe this key change in mentality is what holds people back. Someone may play well, but crumble against different pressure or even an unorthodox or hell, maybe even an outright worse game plan simply because they're not used to it. So how do you deal with that? Sounds obvious, but play the game, learn to get used to it. This should help a player improve substantially, as recognizing habits and learning to exploit them is such a huge aspect of these games. If you find something your opponent cannot deal with, why shouldn't you just spam it until you win? If what I had to say today was interesting and you want to hear more on these kinds of topics, shoutouts to Ramal and Hotashi. They've recently done really excellent videos on similar talking points. They're also infinitely better at games than me and have a better understanding of them. So, if you got something out of this vid, chances are you will from them as well. I'll link to them below. I don't know how to end a video. I think that covered most of what I wanted to cover, but of course I was brief with some topics such as emotions and the dichotomy of focusing on improvement versus winning games and anything else I might have missed. If you liked the video, consider letting me know with a like or a comment or something like that. There's a lot of topics that I wish to make more videos on, but I can't really promise any level of consistency as far as an upload schedule goes. I can only really promise a video when I get inspiration for it. But if any of the topics that I mentioned here do sound interesting to you, if you liked what I had to say, then the best way to stay up to date with my videos is to subscribe. The support would be greatly appreciated as I try to jumpstart this channel.